The shadow of Imogen. When Charlotte first met Imogen, she was a bright blur of laughter and adventure. Imogen was everything the other kids at school weren't, wildly imaginative and wonderfully free-spirited. They danced in the woods while the sun streamed through the leaves, spun stories of fairy circles and far-off lands, and whispered secrets beneath the starry sky. For Charlotte, Imogen was perfect, a guardian of her wildest dreams. But as the days stretched into weeks, something began to shift. It started with subtle changes. The way the sun dipped low in the sky earlier, casting long shadows that crawled across the ground, and how the wind blew a little too cold for early autumn. Imogen suggested they venture deeper into the woods, away from the sun-drenched paths that held the laughter of children who played tag during the day. "Let's explore the old stone ruins," Imogen encouraged one afternoon, her bright eyes gleaming with mischief. "I know a secret about them." Charlotte hesitated. The ruins were a place whispered about in town, the kind of place the grown-ups warned children to avoid. "What kind of secret?" she asked, glancing back towards the safety of home, where her mother's voice could be heard through the open window, humming a soft tune. "Oh, it's nothing scary," Imogen insisted, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just a game. I promise it'll be fun." Swayed by her friend's insistence, Charlotte followed Imogen deeper into the woods. The trees loomed taller as they approached the ancient stones, their gnarled branches intertwining like the fingers of forgotten giants. The air thickened, wrapping around Charlotte like a damp, heavy blanket. As they climbed over the moss-covered stones, Charlotte could feel something was off. The vibrant laughter that once echoed between them felt muted, drowned by an unsettling silence. Imogen's laughter had morphed into an eerie giggle, one that tickled at the edges of Charlotte's mind. "Let's play hide and seek," Imogen declared suddenly, her voice rippling with excitement. "Okay," Charlotte replied, but she felt less enthusiastic. The ruins didn't feel like the safe playground they had imagined. "But, where should I hide?" "Just count to 100. I'll be hiding somewhere special." With that, Imogen darted away, her movements too graceful, too quick, fading into the shadows. Charlotte took a deep breath, shoving her hands deep into her pockets. 1, 2, 3. As she counted, a shiver slid down her spine. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to turn back, but Imogen's voice promised adventure, and Charlotte desperately wanted to belong. After what felt like hours, she finished counting and called out, "Ready or not, here I come." But as she stepped forward, the excitement drained out of her. The shadows swirled around her, morphing shapes that danced just out of the corner of her eye. The woods were darker, the air heavier. And then she heard it, an unsettling giggle, close yet distant, echoing through the trees. "Imogen?" Charlotte called, her voice wavering. A twinge of fear twisted into her stomach, expanding like a dark flower. The giggle responded, swirling around her, wrapping itself around her like vines. From the depths of the shadows, Imogen emerged, but she was different. Where her bright eyes once sparkled with joy, there was a darkness that sent chills up Charlotte's spine. "Did you find me?" Imogen asked, but her smile was too wide, stretching unnaturally across her face, revealing teeth that shone too white against the darkness. Charlotte backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. "I think it's time to go home," she stammered. The woods had taken on a life of their own, a sinister presence that clawed at her. "Home?" Imogen tilted her head, and the shadows behind her writhed like tendrils of smoke. "Why would you want to go home when we could have so much fun together?" "I'm not having fun anymore," Charlotte whimpered, clenching her fists at her sides. "Don't you remember the adventures we had?" Imogen's voice now dripped with a creeping malice. "This is just the beginning. You can be mine forever." In that moment, Charlotte realized her friend was no longer the vibrant spirit she had adored. Imogen had become a puppet of the dark woods, twisting their bond into something suffocating and sinister. "No!" Charlotte screamed, turning to run. She dashed toward the path, the overhanging branches clawing at her, but she couldn't look back. Not at the shadow that was once her friend, not at the reality that had become a nightmare. She broke through the tree line, her heart racing, lungs straining as she collapsed onto the familiar ground of home. The air felt lighter, almost ethereal compared to the suffocating darkness she had left behind. With shaking hands, she turned and glanced back at the woods, where the shadows pulsed like a heartbeat. And for just a moment, she thought she saw Imogen standing at the edge, that same twisted smile lighting up her face, before she melted back into the darkness. Days passed, and Charlotte grew cautious about the woods. Her laughter was quieter, her footsteps lighter as she tiptoed around the trees. She had lost her imaginary friend, but she couldn't help but feel that perhaps, somewhere between the trees and shadows, Imogen was still waiting, spinning stories and whispering secrets meant to lure her back. Imogen would always be there, a dark shadow beneath her bed, in her dreams, and somewhere deep in the woods where light dared not travel.